Alrighty, well, good morning to each and every one of you, and thank you for coming to Sunday school class. Thank you for all those who are here and all those online. Our text today, the agenda is going to be to continue in Daniel chapter 7. Again, one of the things that we're going to be looking at is God's power over the nations. Last week, we stopped at the end of verse 4, so we were just starting verse 5. But we might as well just remind ourselves of what's going on. So can I have one person please read for us Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 through 8. 1 through 8, please.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions that passed through his head as he lay in bed. He wrote the dream down, and this is how the narrative began. Daniel said, I have been seeing visions in the night. I saw that the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. Four great beasts emerged from the sea, each different from the others. The first was like a lion with eagle's wings, and as I looked, its wings were torn off, and it was lifted off the ground and set standing on its feet like a human, and it was given a human heart. And there before me was a second beast, like a bear, rearing up on one side, with 3 ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. Up came the command, eat quantities of flesh. After this, I looked, and there before me was another beast, like a leopard, and with 4 birds' wings on its flanks. It had 4 heads and was granted authority. Next, in the visions of the night, I saw another vision. There before me was a 4th beast, fearful, terrifying, very strong. It had great iron teeth, and it ate its victims, crushed them, and trampled their remains underfoot. It was different from the previous beasts, and had 10 horns. While I was looking at these horns, I saw another horn sprouting among them, a little one. 3 of the original horns were pulled out by the roots to make way for it, and in this horn I saw eyes like human eyes, and a mouth full of boasting.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Appreciate that. Alrighty, so just a reminder for us that this is still when Babylon is an empire. The date in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, about 50 years after Daniel entered exile, so he's beginning to enter into some years under his belt when he has this vision. Remember that we're just talking about the vision elements at this time. Interpretation will come in verses 15 and on. Okay, and so we're just kind of beginning to put together some dots, maybe to beginning to point some trajectories for interpretation. But really what we're doing here at the moment is simply looking to understand the symbols. Okay, last week we talked about the sea, the 4 winds of heaven, the first great beast, the lion and the eagle's wings, what that is most likely referring to, which is probably Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire. We talked about some of the meaning of the symbols there. Let's head into verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second one like a bear. What's a bear bring to mind for you? What's that?
Russia.
Russia. Okay, sure. What else?
Strong.
Yeah, it's strong, right? Bears are pretty strong. They're ferocious. John Goldengay says, hey, the bear is the source of fear second only to the lion at this time. Bear is the source of fear second only to the lion. So you're kind of going down on the fear rating just a little bit, but you still are dealing with something extremely powerful and strong. What's the deal with it was raised up on one side? Does anyone hear how the Jerusalem Bible translated that? I think we use the Jerusalem Bible, right? Yeah. How did the Jerusalem Bible render that? Did you hear those words? Rearing up. What does it mean to rear up?
Take control.
Rearing up, it's getting ready to strike. Right? It's rearing up on one side. It's getting ready to strike. So it could be on 3 legs, rearing up on one side to swipe with the forepaw. It could be on two legs, getting ready to crash down, right? Most likely, if it's raised up on one side, there's only one paw up, but there's a possibility for two. So this is the idea here. It's a bear. It's ready to strike. It's ready to spring. That sometimes that doesn't come across. I had to go to a commentary for that. My Bible simply reads, "It was raised up on one side," right? Well, I was like, it's raised up on one side. Somehow I had this image of it laying on its side and being raised, But no, it's just getting ready to strike or ready to spring. Okay? So that's the idea there. What's the deal with the ribs between its teeth?
Sounds like he's already struck.
Yeah.
Sounds like you might already be eating, right? That very well may be. What also could it be based in the text?
He's commanded to rise up and devour much.
It's commanded to rise up and devour much. Sure. And that's what he's going to be doing, this kingdom. So the ribs, it could be a ribs of victims that he've already had. Or remember, these creatures are all kind of deformed in some way. It could be that the ribs are actually growing out of the mouth. Or that the ribs are, or maybe like ribs like tusks almost. They're growing out of the mouth. And so it could be either one. It could be he already struck and he's devouring stuff and the ribs are in the mouth. Or it could actually be kind of like a deformed sort of growth coming out of the mouth. Okay? Either one of those could be possible. And then as we just said, what's the job of this particular bear?
Devour much flesh.
Yeah, her eyes devour much flesh. What do you think that means?
Take control of countries.
Yeah, right? He's going to be conquering. He's looking to take control over countries. He's going to be looking to make war. That's the idea there behind that command. Okay? Remember, everything here is symbolic of something else. However, as John Goldengate points out, actually the bear is not associated with any specific kingdom. Right? So, we don't know necessarily. We could guess what it is. But at this time, we don't necessarily know what it is. Unlike the first one in verse 4, where it seems very much linked to Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, we have that bit of the story there to link it to Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon. Great. What questions or comments or insights there do you have on verse 5? All right, let's take a look at verse 6 then. After this I looked, and behold, he sees what?
Leopard.
Leopard with
4 wings.
4 wings of a bird on its back. Now, what do you make of this? What are leopards known for? Speed. You've got it. So speed is one thing, and that's emphasized with not only is it a leopard, but what does it have? Wings, right? So it's going to be even amplified in its speed. It's going to be something that is very fast. What else is it about leopard?
4 heads.
Yeah, the beast had 4 heads, right? Now, what did we think, or what did we remember from last week when we talked about the 4 winds? What were the 4 winds an expression of? That's the sea. Good. Chaos is the sea. The 4 winds are the 4 compass points: north, south, east, and west. And what it meant to be is meant to have totality. It's meant to symbolize the whole earth, really. It's the winds of the whole earth. Okay, so when you bring that completeness symbolism to this, what then you have is a beast with 4 wings and 4 heads. So what does that mean for us? What does it mean to have 4 heads? If you had 4 heads, which could you do?
All directions.
Yeah, you could see all directions, right? That's exactly what it's doing. It's going out and it's seeing in all directions. What do 4 wings imply?
They're fast.
One
fast.
can do so with fast. It could do so swiftly with conquest. That's exactly right. Going to be able to fly very quickly in all directions, right? It's conquest again. That four symbolism is again all directions. Okay, it's that completeness or totality there.
Doesn't number 4 designate authority?
Could number 4 designate authority? Sure. Yep. All right, so 4 wings, you have that. Here's what leopards are also known for, according to Joyce Baldwin. Unexpected attacks. Unexpected attacks, right?
And
leopards.
Where are they on the list of strength? You said the bear was a second.
Yeah, bear's the second. Leopards.
Is leopard the third?
Leopard would be underneath the bear most likely, but with the symbolism baked in of all this speed, it could be equally as devastating. Yep. It's kind of hard to say because we almost wouldn't want to face any of these things. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I think that would probably be number 3. Yep. All right. So 4 wings, 4 heads. What's given to this particular beast?
Dominion.
Dominion is given to it. What does it mean if something's given?
It's a gift.
It's a gift.
Well, it must have had certain qualities to be given that.
Hmm. Sure.
Something that had earned somehow or shown, had shown a depthness to be able to judge wisely and have authority.
Is there, and I'm going to rephrase this as a question for us, is there a reason in the text for it to have been given this? Maybe. I mean, some of the rulers might have been wise, but we don't know. The text isn't actually telling us that.
Well, with 4 heads, being able to see in all directions, and
Mm-hmm.
it was designed to be able to judge.
Sure.
He would have been a tremendous warrior, so it would have, the dominion could have come from
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Would have been a tremendous warrior. I think we just need to use caution and be careful here. Dominion, or the ability to conquer empires, was given to some pretty ugly and nasty empires just to fulfill God's purposes. So, for example, Assyria. Assyria was an awful empire. I mean, it was terrible what they did to people. And yet they were still given dominion for many years, and specifically even over the northern promised land, the northern tribes of Israel. Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar has some redeeming qualities to him, and he's considered the gold head, but that's actually the peak of the human empires, and even Babylon wasn't all that to be rated highly for. And so then when we go down the list, remember that things are getting worse as we go. And the 4th one's going to be the worst of all. So it may be very true. I also just want to caution us to think about this as, well, maybe not. But here's the thing. If it's given dominion, who's the one who can give dominion to the empires? God. So the real signpost here is God's power over the nations. As strong as this creature may be, as great as a warrior as this creature may be, as strong and swift in ability to see, it still has to be given dominion.
Does dominion mean authority?
Dominion has authority in it. Dominion has control baked in there. Authority, sure.
Mine doesn't say dominion, it says authority.
Authority is yours the NIV? Yeah, okay. So authority, yep, be fine. Great. What other questions or insights do you have here on this beast? All right, John Goldengay does say this: 4 is an indicator of totality or universality. Could see, move in all directions. It may refer to the fourfold Persian Empire or the fourfold Greek Empire. Right, so each of those are divided up into 4 sections at one point or another. And so which one is it? Well, it could possibly be either. We don't know. Alrighty. Let's keep going then, because we're going to see something even more awful. Can I have somebody read verse 7 for us, please?
After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, the fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth that devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the other beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
Excellent, thank you. Let's stop there and start to consider the description of this beast here in verse 7. We are not given an animal. Right? All the other ones are described with an animal, which helps us to picture it and put it all together. What's the effect of not being given a certain animal for this?
Just something unrecognizable,
Okay, something could be unrecognizable. You got it.
or doesn't compare to anything that Daniel's ever seen.
Right. Doesn't compare to anything that Daniel has ever seen. What else could it be?
It may not be alive. Is it alive?
It may not be alive as in the sense of like it's a zombie-ish thing.
Well, the others were animals.
Okay. This one is going to say it's a beast. It says it's a fourth beast, and so I'm gonna say that it's probably alive here. It's a creature of some sort, just depending on what sort of creature it is. But what's the effect? When something is unknown, does that cause some tremors or scariness for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is part of the effect, right? It's meant to build mystery. It's meant to build something that's a little unknown. And it's also meant to put some fear, right? We're naturally fearful of this fourth beast, this fourth creature, this fourth king/kingdom. And that effect is then emphasized with what? Terrifying and dreadful. Right? So this thing is monstrous. Has anybody read a children's Bible recently? Sometime, if you have a child's Bible lying around with illustrations and stuff, check and see if they have the visions of Daniel. It's fascinating, some of the different depictions of this fourth beast. Right? You have some that are like up on 2 legs and it almost looks like a triceratops face and a man's chest and arms. And I mean, you just get all sorts of different depictions of this thing as people just imagine it and try to put it together. But they're all pretty just terrible.
There's
All right.
there's a thing on TV that this great big thing comes up out of the earth, and this lady's standing over. I don't know what they're advertising, but it's very scary.
Sure.
Yeah, it's on TV, so every time I see it, I thought, I wouldn't want that to
Sure.
come near me.
Is that like a horror movie or?
No, it's not a movie. It's an advertisement for something.
Oh, yeah. It's probably for a car.
I'll have to think the next time I see this.
Yes. Yep. Very good. So we just have this terrifying and dreadful beast. How is it defined though? It's exceedingly strong. What does it mean to be exceedingly strong?
Extra strong.
Yeah. It's not just strong, right? Like the lion, the bear, and the leopard. We assume their strength. We assume they're strong. This beast is above and beyond even that. It's exceedingly strong. Superman strong, so to speak. Right? What's the next part here for us?
Yeah, iron teeth.
Great iron teeth. Right? What do you think iron teeth could be used to do?
Yeah, apart.
Tear, crush apart, right? I mean, this is pretty... Our teeth are pretty strong, right? I mean, we can do a lot with our teeth. Iron teeth, I mean, you're just talking about incredible crushing strength. what then does that also do for us? When was the last time we heard of iron in the book of Daniel? The statue, right? The fourth statue, which was of the feet and I think the legs, and it's iron legs, and then the feet are mixed with iron and clay, right? Revealing some weakness. What crashes into that?
The stone not cut up by hand.
The stone, the rock that was not cut out by hands. That's indicative of God's kingdom, of Jesus, right? The coming of God's kingdom. What does that rock do? It grows up into a mountain that fills the whole earth. Okay? So there's a reason why there's only four beasts. It's because it also is meant to link back to that statue. We're meant to hold that in mind. And the vision that God is giving Daniel has that embedded in it for us. We're meant to link these two things together.
Iron is associated with the Roman Empire.
Right. Iron's usually associated with the Roman Empire. You got it. Now we're gonna get to that. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go on through verse 8, because then we need to start making some application for us in our lives, and so we're going to talk about that. Had great iron teeth, and it does what with those great iron teeth?
Devouring and breaking in pieces.
Yeah, devouring and breaking in pieces, crushing and devouring, right? And whatever left, it's going to do what? Stamp it out with its feet. You know, I mean, this is utter dominion. This is total control and power. This is total conquering that's happening here. Now, what's really different about this beast according to verse 7?
He's destroying even the residue of what he's broken.
Okay, so that's a little different than what comes before. He's destroying even the residue of what comes before. Absolutely. What else?
He's different from all others.
He was different in what way?
The 10 horns.
He has 10 horns, right? According to the text, he has 10 horns. Let me see if I have a handy-dandy note here. The horn suggests strength for defense or attack. It's also a symbol for a king. 10 suggests fullness. 10 horns represent the tremendous power of the beast. I need to correct that word in my footnote. It looks like tomatoes of the beast, but that can't be right. Tremendous power of the beast. And so we get this idea of strength, power to attack. Does anybody remember for the sermon from last week? Talked a little bit about the horn of salvation, right? The strength of the Messiah, the one to come. This one has 10 horns. They're symbols of kings. Okay, they're symbols of strength and power. Again, ability to attack and defend. All of that's baked in there. Does anybody know why they would associate horns with strength instead of claws and teeth? There is one ancient animal. It's now extinct. It used to roam across Europe and the Middle East and parts of Asia, and it was called the auroch. And the auroch is the wild ox. The wild ox had huge horns. It would stand at the shoulder. It was as tall as a person, and it had these 3-foot horns on it. And it was the king of all the animals in the Middle East. Okay, nothing would mess with this thing. Obviously, lions would try to mess with it, and they'd get massively hurt. Humans would eventually learn to kill them. That's why they're extinct. But they would have to surround this thing, and this thing would charge with these massive horns. Just incredible. You can actually look it up on Google, because they've dug up the bones, and there's all this information on it. It's also in the book of Deuteronomy. Okay, and so you'll come across, some translations mistranslate it, but in Hebrew you'll come across the term auroch, and the proper translation is the wild ox. Okay, so the wild ox is tremendously powerful. Well, one of the reasons for its power is these strong horns that it would have, right? So it has the horns associated with strength and with power. That's great news. I will share the great news as soon as we go offline because it has to do with somebody in the congregation. So I'll share that with us, and that'll be good and hopeful. So we'll move on from there. All right. So it has 10 of these horns, though. What happens then as he considers the horns?
A little one starts up.
A little one starts up. What does that do?
Gets rid of 3 of the 10.
Yeah, it takes care of 3 of the 10. Does anybody remember their child's teeth coming out or watched a children's teeth come out recently?
I just lost one like the other week.
You just lost a tooth. I'm sorry about that since you have adult teeth. I was meaning the children's teeth. But if you watch children's teeth, why do they lose their child's tooth?
Because there's a better one coming in.
A better one's already coming in. It pushes it out, right? And that's the idea here. The little horn is coming in such a way that it's displacing 3 and causing them to fall off. Okay? But it's just a little horn. Okay? What does the little horn have or do?
Well, that eyes.
Has eyes of who? Not just a beast's eyes, but eyes of what?
I mean,
Eyes of a man.
Eyes of a man. All right. What else does it have?
A mouth speaking pompous words.
A mouth speaking pompous words or great things. So, remember what we said about the lion. The lion actually was given a gift when it was forced to stand up on 2 legs and have its wings ripped off and was given a heart of a man. That was a good thing. It became more human-like. But here, what's this symbolism mean for us? What's the symbolism mean for us?
well, he had eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. So what he's seen with his eyes made him say these great things.
What he's seeing with his eyes, maybe he's seeing great things. Possibly. I think the normal interpretation of this is arrogance.
Oh,
So that the symbolism here then is one to depict that this horn, remember that horns usually represent kings. So this particular king is human-like enough to perhaps fool some. But the arrogance flowing from the mouth reveals who the king is. And the king is not good. Okay, and so that's kind of the symbolism roped in here and involved here. And we should be recognizing some of this symbolism because some of these words are going to eventually come up in the book of Revelation, which is after we're done with Daniel 7, we'll try to take a quick tour of Revelation and take a look at the beast we find there. Okay? And see how they're matching up and how God is then repurposing Daniel in John's vision and what that looks like. Okay? So he's uttering arrogant things. What questions do you have here? Or what comments or insights?
Well, my footnote here says,
Mm-hmm.
the little horn who will conquer the others, dominate the entire empire, and eventually become world dictator, the Antichrist.
Yeah, so, while I think that interpretation is true in the book of Revelation, I think it might be reading a little too much in here in the book of Daniel. So that's just my opinion, though. So that's just my opinion of that particular footnote. What I would suggest is absolutely true in the Revelation. Revelation in John, the vision God gives John on Patmos in the book of Revelation repurposes and uses a whole lot of this imagery, but it's not exact. And so the question is, especially if this is the Roman Empire, what's this looking like and meaning for us? Then we need to move forward into the book of Revelation to figure that out about the Antichrist. Because here, so the footnote said that it rises up and conquers the others. However, in the text, it doesn't say that. It simply says that actually it plucks up 3 of the first horns by the roots. It doesn't say that it conquers the other horns or plucks them up or removes them. Also here in Daniel, which makes it different than Revelation, is as we're observing the text here in verse 8, it also does not say that it's over or above in any way the other horns. It does not say that the other horns submit to him. It just says that it rises up and has eyes like a man and a mouth speaking great things. So we have to be really tender and careful here with it. Again, it's not necessarily wrong. I would agree with it if it was in Revelation, but I think that we'd have to go to the book of Revelation to really dig up that meaning. So again, it's not wrong. I'm just
Yeah.
saying perhaps too much for here, in my opinion. And I'll stand on that. That's my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. What questions or comments that you have here for us? All right. What do I want to do? Also, because I might have spoken too soon, we'd also have to go into the interpretation section in Daniel chapter 7, verses 23 through 25. And that also gives a little bit more detail on that horn. Especially with becoming a world dictator, that sort of thing, is a little bit more in verse 23. But again, we'll wait to get to that. So I'm going to wait. Can only study so much every week. So we're just doing this little section by section here. Alrighty. Before we move into practical application, let's finish up the entirety of Daniel 7. Then we'll start to talk about what empires Daniel may be referring to, how that works with typology, and we'll work in Revelation and go from there. So let's try to finish Daniel 7. Can I have one person read for us, please? Daniel chapter 7, verses 9 through 12. 9 through 12.
I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated and the books were opened. I watched then because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain, and its body devoured and given to the burning flame. As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time.
Excellent, thank you. Great, so let's start in verse 9. What do we see in verse 9?
The judge of all the earth started judgment.
Judge of all the earth started judgment. Whether or not this is the end time judgment, we're going to leave for the practical application section. Because, for other reasons that we'll see in verse 12. But what's fascinating here is the judge of all the earth is sitting down. What is placed? Let's start very simply in verse 9. What is placed? How many thrones are placed? One or more? More than one. It's a plural. Fascinating. Thrones are placed. What does it mean if thrones are placed? Okay, it means they're established, but really, and I'm just looking for something very simple here, it does mean they're established, but really it means that there's more than one person who is at a ruling level. There's more than one person at a ruling level. Okay? Now, here's the next thing. How many people actually sit down in a throne? One. Only the Ancient of Days actually takes his seat. Okay? Only the Father. Now, what does that mean?
So the rest sit there empty?
The rest are empty. There's two reasons why they might remain empty. Number one, the others remain standing in a position of service. The ministers are continuing to stand. The second thing, it might be that those rulers are the ones on judgment for the beast, connected to the empire. Right? We could go to Psalm 82 and Psalm 89 for that. Let me just read it off because I don't want you to think I'm crazy here. So let me just read it off for you. Skip too many.
The saints will have authority and will rule over the nation.
Yes, in the end, the saints will have authority and rule in the nations. Here's Psalm 82. Listen to this. Verse 1. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die, and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. Right? What's happening there? Well, actually, remember that these deities that ruled, and that's past tense, that ruled these other nations, are being judged by God in that psalm. That also connects then to something we'll learn in Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12, where is it? Not Daniel chapter 12, maybe Daniel chapter 10. Verse 13. Right here, Daniel's having another vision. And here's what goes on. A messenger comes to Daniel. Verse 13, he says this. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia, and he came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is for days yet to come. Okay? It's not a human being coming to help him out with the vision. That's a spiritual being, talking about other spiritual beings resisting him, right? Now, we're not giving a whole lot of details. We're just giving that things are. So here, when we come back to Daniel chapter 7, when you have thrones placed, it could be the ministers are in attendance, standing before the one who takes his seat. Or it could be that those are the people that are, those are the entities standing in judgment. Or being judged. I'm sorry. Those are the ones being judged. Okay?
How does that correlate with verse 22? Until the ancient of days came, the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and time came when the saints possessed the kingdom.
Yeah. We're going to get there. How does that correlate with verse 22? We'll get there. Right? The short answer is I don't know at this time. I'll have to research it. Yep. Yeah. Very good. So we'll come back to that. The Ancient of Days took his seat. Okay? How is he described in verses 9 and 10?
His clothing was white as snow, and his hair was white.
Yeah, his hair is white like wool. He actually sort of has a human appearance here. Now, that's very unusual. However, that's something very, very ironic, or not ironic, but very, very contrasting with everything else. Remember, the four beasts that came before were all beasts. Some of them had some human featurettes, but none were human. Okay? So, John Goldengay will say this, page 362. This is a direct quote. Paradoxically, it is the human portrayal of God that captures God's divine incomparability as a just and absolute ruler in contrast to the animal forms of the earthly kings and kingdoms. Okay, remember this is symbolic. But what it's doing is creating this great contrast between the one who's seated on the throne and is able to judge justly and rightly, in comparison with all the beasts that came before. Okay, it's a contrast between them. Questions or comments there, or insights? What's it mean that his clothing is white as snow?
Clothed in righteousness.
Yeah, he's clothed in righteousness, right? It could suggest purity. Most likely it also represents brightness, luminosity, which would mean nobility and splendor. I mean, he's righteous, he's pure, he's noble, he's clothed in splendor.
But his head was like pure wool, which made me think of a lamb.
Yeah, great. So his hair is like pure wool. Now I was actually going to go here. I will simply say that commentators do not go here. But I think that the reference to wool is meant to draw us back to a lamb, right? Making a connection between God the Father and God the Son. Okay, it's meant to do that. This does not mean that the Ancient of Days is God the Son. This is clearly God the Father. God the Son is coming in verses 13 through 14. All right, but we're meant to kind of draw that. I think we're meant to draw those dots together. Okay, good. What else do you have for us?
If a person could live forever like God, maybe their hair would turn that way.
Person could live forever like God. Maybe their hair would turn that way. We will live forever like God.
Yeah.
As far as we know, the resurrection bodies are immortal. And so when we hit the resurrection, we'll be alive billions of years. How do I want to put this?
We don't know.
This is complete conjecture. Say it louder for me, please, so everyone can hear. Conjecture. Thank you. This is complete conjecture.
Wouldn't have to go to
If
beauty
God-
parlor anymore.
If God looks like this, with hair as white as the hair of his head like pure wool, I think many would probably try to imitate it, but it would never be as great or grand. But we don't know how the resurrection bodies fully work. We know they're immortal, imperishable, incorruptible, but we don't know a whole lot about what that means or looks like, or can you change your hair? Can you dye it on a whim? I mean, who knows? No, I guess we'll see. Alrighty, thanks so much, folks. We'll come back. We'll pick up in the middle of verse 9 here, and we'll continue on. Thank you so much, folks.